Let me start by saying this clearly. This is not about disrespecting The Lord of the Rings. Tolkien's work is foundational. Without it, modern fantasies simply wouldn't exist. It defined the genre, shaped storytelling, and set the gold standard for epic world-building. But here's the thing. Sometimes better doesn't mean bigger. Sometimes better means closer to the heart. And that's where Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, quietly and almost unfairly outshines The Lord of the Rings for a modern audience. Not in scale, not in legacy, but in emotional resonance. Let me explain why. The Lord of the Rings is about saving the world. The stakes are cosmic. Evil threatens everything. If the heroes fail, darkness wins. The question driving LOTR is simple and powerful. Will good triumph over evil? Frieren doesn't ask that question, because the world has already been saved. The Demon King is dead. The journey is over. The heroes are celebrated. And then life continues. Frieren asks a far more uncomfortable question. What happens after the ending? What happens when the songs are sung, the statues are raised, and time keeps moving, but the people you loved don't? That alone shifts the entire emotional gravity of the story. Lord of the Rings is about the end of an age. Frieren is about living with what remains after an age ends. Time in The Lord of the Rings is urgent. Every moment matters. Every delay is dangerous. The clock is always ticking. But time in Frieren is something else entirely. Time is the enemy. Frieren is immortal. Her companions are not. 10 years to her feels like a brief stop. To humans, it's a lifetime. And that imbalance creates a quiet horror that no Dark Lord ever could. When Himmel dies, Frieren doesn't collapse in grief. She's confused, because only then does she realize she barely knew him. Not because she didn't care, but because she didn't understand time. That realization is devastating in a way that feels painfully real. Lord of the Rings tells us, fight now or everything ends. Frieren tells us, you didn't notice how precious this was, and now it's gone. That hits harder the older you get. Lord of the Rings heroes are forged in crisis. They rise because the world demands it. Frodo carries a burden no one else can. Aragorn claims a destiny written in blood. Gandalf stands as a force against cosmic evil. It's heroic. It's inspiring. Frieren's heroism is quieter. There's no prophecy pushing her forward, no great evil forcing her hand. She helps people because she chooses to. She revisits villages decades later, not to save them, but to understand moments she once dismissed as insignificant. In Frieren, heroism isn't about changing the world. It's about not letting moments disappear unnoticed, and that feels painfully human. Lord of the Rings excels at showing friendship forged in hardship. The Fellowship is iconic because we see them suffer together. Their bonds are sealed by danger, sacrifice, and shared terror. Frieren shows something rarer, friendship remembered too late. Frieren doesn't cry when Himmel is alive. She cries at his funeral, not because she lost him, but because she finally understands him. Lord of the Rings celebrates friendship in the present tense. Frieren mourns friendship in the past tense, and that difference is brutal. Tolkien builds continents, languages, histories, genealogies spanning thousands of years. Frieren builds moments, a conversation on a bench, a shared meal, visiting a grave decades after the promise was made. In Frieren, an entire episode can revolve around a spell that exists only to make flowers bloom, and somehow it feels more meaningful than a battle involving thousands. Lord of the Rings zooms out to show us history. Frieren zooms in until we're forced to feel it.
Now, villain Sauron is pure domination. He wants control. He wants power. He wants the world bent to his will. Frieren's demons are more unsettling. They understand human emotion, they just don't value it. They can mimic kindness, they can fake empathy, but they don't feel it. That makes them terrifying in a modern way. Lord of the Rings asks, can evil be defeated? Frieren asks, what happens when understanding exists without compassion? That's a scarier question in today's world. Lord of the Rings ends with closure. The ring is destroyed, the king is crowned, the world is healed. There is sadness, but also resolution. Frieren doesn't offer closure, it offers continuation. Life goes on, people age, graves fill, and Frieren keeps walking, learning too slowly, but learning nonetheless. There's no final victory over time, only understanding. Lord of the Rings was written after a world war. It's about fighting darkness head-on. Frieren speaks to a quieter generation, one dealing with regret, distance, time slipping away unnoticed. We don't all face dark lords, but we all face moments we didn't appreciate until they were gone. That's why Frieren feels better to many people, not because it replaces LOTR, but because it speaks to a different wound. The Lord of the Rings is a myth. It teaches us how to stand tall against overwhelming darkness. Frieren is a memory. It teaches us to look back and whisper, "I wish I had stayed longer." One inspires courage, the other teaches reflection. And maybe, just maybe, in a world that's already tired of fighting, stories about remembering, slowing down, and understanding love too late are the ones that feel the most powerful now. So no, Frieren isn't objectively better than The Lord of the Rings, but emotionally, for many of us, it cuts deeper.